Hi there. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the band Deep Purple's Concerto for Group and Orchestra. Now, concerto is one of those forms I was telling you about before when it's a standard orchestral form. And usually there are some features that kind of make it what it is, some of those stylistic characteristics that we've talked about before. So, one of those things is that a concerto is typically for a soloist accompanied by orchestra. It's a large scale instrumental orchestral piece featuring a soloist. Um, in this case, the soloist is the band. And so it's kind of, that's why it's called group and orchestra. I don't know why they couldn't just say band, but anyway, maybe group sounds, I don't know, cooler. Um, so there's another thing that makes a concerto distinctive, and that is its movement structure. Now, in classical music, large scale works are divided into separate sections called movements, and they kind of stand independently but also relate to the whole. And in that case, there's sort of like a chapter to a book. Each chapter, comes to a conclusion, but it belongs in the larger narrative of the book. And so movements are kind of like that too. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of the production of the original performance, the premiere of the piece from Royal Albert Hall in London, and it's a really interesting cultural piece because you kind of see different audiences smushing together, just as you see the different kind of genres smushing together and the different kinds of cultures smushing together. So I'm going to play just a little bit of this opening and then kind of get into the piece a little bit.
It happened in London. It happened in the Royal Albert Hall, the world premiere of a new musical event. These scenes of unrestrained enthusiasm took place in London. And for the thousands of people who packed the Royal Albert Hall that night, it was a unique occasion. One which brought together two worlds of music, symphony and pop.
Now, if we're looking at the piece of music itself, what we're going to hear is a few things. First of all, like I said before, we have a concerto, and it's going to be in 3 movements. This is a really long concerto. It's like 57 minutes total, or maybe around 50 minutes total. Usually concertos are not that long. Like I would say like 15, 20 minutes is an average concerto length, and that would be all 3 movements. And you can see that the second movement is in part 1 and 2, which might be cheating a little bit, but who knows? They can do whatever they want because they're the artists. Okay, so I'm going to delve a little bit into the first movement. And like I said, we have this, usually it's a soloist, but in this case, it's a small group contrasting the large orchestra. And I'm just going to highlight one interesting thing about the concerto that you can listen for when we're looking at this. So often in the concerto, we can divide up a movement mentally, and this is how they were originally designed to be heard, like in the 18th century when they first kind of started to become popular this way. So you have like the whole movement. Okay, and we can kind of divide it in half, and you're going to have a theme area. So this is going to be your melody A, okay? And then you're going to have a melody B, and it's going to be different in contrast with that. Then you're going to have a section that goes off and does fun stuff, that develops it all. Okay? And then you're going to come back and have a repetition of melody A and melody B smushed together. Sometimes this section will repeat. So, so maybe we can just think of it as A, B, and then repeated A, B. That's kind of how a first movement goes in a concerto. We also have another interesting feature in a concerto that we will hear in this particular piece, and that would be this around this A melody. So kind of thinking in closer here, what we end up having is the orchestra states the melody, but then the rock band will also repeat that. So we have a long introduction of just orchestra before the rock band comes in. And when the rock band comes in, it repeats some of the melodic ideas that were introduced in the first part of the opening of this particular movement. So the main theme that we're going to be looking for when we're thinking of a melodic theme, we're looking for a little sort of tidbit of melody, that thing that you want to sing along with. And this is the theme that you want to hear is something like dun da dee da da dee dum da dee dum, and it will be the first thing you hear when we start listening, and it will be played by the clarinet, which is a woodwind instrument, and it will be quiet, and then it will jump in, and so you'll kind of hear big listen for contrasts, both in terms of melodic ideas and in instruments. But also listen to repetitions. So these are kind of repetitions and contrasts are a big way we listen through this instrumental music. Melodic ideas and instruments. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play from the video so you can kind of see which instruments are playing and get a sense for what's going on there visually. Now I'm going to pause a second. We heard that opening theme. Da 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 dee da da dee da dum. And you can see I've paused on the image of those clarinets because they're the ones that introduce that theme. And then we kind of go into a little bit of a contrast here. Now, where I ended there, we have the horns, a big horn section, and a very triumphant restatement of that first melody. Bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, 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 bum. So they're getting it into your head so that when the group comes in, the smaller group comes in, you're ready for it. You're ready for that main thematic idea. Now, we're still in that introductory part before the soloist or the small group comes in. So now we're going to get another thematic area, and it's going to be, instead of this triumphant da 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 da, it's going to be a little bit more playful, a nice contrast. Whoa, did you catch that? Here comes the rock band. And so they just kind of come out of the fabric there. And what we're going to hear is the guitar, the electric guitar, wailing out that main thematic area. Okay, so as you can see, the rock band kind of went off into this sort of bluesy improv bit, but that restatement of the theme dun 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 was pretty clear as they came in. You can listen to it on your own. It's on the Spotify playlist.